Juan Hungrybox Debiedma has always lived in the shadows. He lived in the shadow of his father, who never supported him. He lived in the shadow of the Smash community, who turned him into a villain. He lived in the shadow of other players, who were always just ahead of him, both in terms of gameplay and tournament placings.
Hungrybox takes second.
Sends Hungrybox home.
For Hungrybox.
But through it all, he never gave up on being the best and proving everyone wrong. He never gave up on himself or on Smash. This is his story. Hungrybox was born on June 21st, 1993 in Buenos Aires, Argentina. But he didn't stay there for long. He was the youngest of 3 brothers, and his parents, Juan, Daniel, and Lucia, lived a somewhat charmed life in their home country. But much of that came crashing down in 1994, when Argentina was hit by a recession after Mexico devalued its peso. Banks collapsing and investors pulling out of the country's developing business, the Debiedma family made their way to Orlando, Florida in search of a brighter future. Much of the family fit in fine, but Juan Daniel didn't. By all accounts, he didn't love the change in lifestyle, and that triggered his temper. Juan Daniel grew angrier and became obsessed with money. He spent money, ran out of money, then went back to Argentina to try it all over again. By 2009, he was ready to leave his family again, this time for the last time.
For most kids, and even for me, there definitely was like a lot of like rough stuff. But honestly, when he left for the very last time, and it was just me, my brothers, my mom, it was like the biggest relief in the world. It's just like I can go home and I can, do my homework now without the sounds of huge yelling in the background. I can like just chill and know I don't have to worry about anything anymore. It was a lot more time to focus on just me.
Without Juan Daniel in their life, the young Debiedma brothers were supported by their mother Lucia, who Hungrybox credits with just about everything.
I definitely spent a lot more time with my mom because I didn't want her to be lonely, I guess. And from that, I guess we have built a really strong mother-son relationship. So we're really close today. People say they're dealt different hands in life. Some kids are born with a silver spoon in their mouth. Some kids are born being the heir to a huge fortune or royalty. I was born with the best mom in the world, so I owe her everything.
As his home life became a little more stable, HBox began to explore the world of competitive Melee. And his first tournament, a monthly at Gigabit's LAN Center in Florida, inspired him to make his Jigglypuff into the best in the world.
My first real tournament was Gigabit's 2007 near UCF. It was a LAN center, and they had a first official legit tournament with 2 out of 3s, a bracket system, low-tier tournaments. Man, the rush, I still remember to this day the rush of walking in, the rush of seeing top players compete. It's unlike anything else. It's such an amazing experience for me. I was hooked from the first day I walked in.
Hungrybox placed 9th there, an impressive result for his first real tournament, but it just inspired him to grind.
I was playing every day with my friends. There was this group of players called WADO, What Are the Odds, in the Orlando, Kissimmee area, and they kind of took me in as their underling and taught me all the matchups, and I played with them every day, and I would host them at my house, my parents' house. Every Friday I would have this thing called box fests in my, cramped bedroom that the AC was not working, so it was 80 degrees in there. So it was just funny because those moments are really what molded my understanding of matchups.
In those early days, Melee's competitive scene was disorganized and scattered. Hungrybox wasn't part of Melee's first golden age, when the game was played on MLG's circuit and players like Ken, PC Chris, and Isaiah ruled the scene. Instead, he rose to prominence in the dark ages of Melee. And while he made his national debut at Revival of Melee, Hungrybox credits Genesis as the tournament that jump-started his pro career. Genesis was the biggest Melee tournament at the time, and it attracted America's finest. Most eyes were on Mango, who was considered one of the best Melee players in the world at the time, and Armada, Europe's top smasher, who came to make a name for himself in NA. But flying under everyone's radar was Hungrybox, who tore through the bracket, losing only to Mango. Later that year, Hungrybox attended Revival of Melee 2, and finally made his name truly known. Following a slew of second-place finishes, Apex 2010 the following year marked his next national victory. But he wasn't consistently dominating the competition when it counted. In fact, he didn't see another major first-place finish again until 2013.
Oh, he wants to go for the naked grab. He's going for the up air, falls down, gets the shield stab, pins him on the edge, and clutches it out with that up air. Mango is your grand finals champion for Big House 2.
The fly guy takes a hit from both characters. Armando with a very, very wise, using his second jump.
Yeah!
And he gets shield stabbed. Always going.
Yeah. Nice. Up there, closes it out, and sends Hungrybox home.
And H-Box with the disappointment. He came to this tournament.
Wow.
We got a sad box here.
Hungrybox learned Melee on Jigglypuff, who, at first glance, doesn't exactly seem like one of the game's more potent characters. Jigglypuff has been in Smash since the franchise's inception, but was put in the game as something of a joke. She's slow, doesn't do much damage, and most of her special moves have severe downsides if you miss them. But Hungrybox was drawn to her. As a kid, his hobby was trying to beat everything in Melee's single-player modes, and as he futilely tried to beat All-Star mode without dying, he discovered Puff's rest move.
I was missing like 20 trophies or whatever. One of them was beat All-Star mode on very hard without dying or whatever. Or so I thought. And so I tried doing it, I kept losing. I'm like, which character in this game can restore HP? I'm like, wait a minute, like, Jigglypuff can do that because she has rest. I'm pretty sure in Pokemon that means you restore HP. And I remember I used it for the first time and it's just this useless fucking move. Does 0%, you're just stuck there. I'm like, she's the worst character in the game. And an hour later, and I'll tell this to everyone, had this not happened, I wouldn't be here today. I was walking down the hall to the bathroom, I turned to the right, my brother's room. He happened to be playing Smash 64, and right as I looked, he landed a rest with Puff in that game. And I looked at it and I was like, whoa. I'm like, how'd you do that? He's like, yeah, she just has a down B. That changed everything. I would have never known. I would have never known what that move did.
In his earliest days of competition, Mango made his name on Jigglypuff and innovated much of her early playstyle. But by the time Hungrybox was rising to prominence in the early 2010s, Jigglypuff's star was fading. Fox and Falco's dominance in that era of Melee was a nightmare for Puff players, who died very quickly to their powerful upwards KO moves and had difficulty dealing with projectiles. But Hungrybox persevered. Playing Jigglypuff runs contrary to just about everything a casual spectator knows about Melee. She's not fast, her combos tend to be rather short, and she's extremely floaty, making her easier to kill. But she's not without her strengths. That rest kill that Hungrybox learned about as a kid is at the very center of what makes Puff so powerful. But until she finds the hit, you have to play extremely patiently, working to get your opening. That level of patience has grown to define Hungrybox.
I would say Hungrybox have very, very good patience. He has a game style and he's never forfeiting that game style at any cost, pretty much. He's not going for like risky stuff, he's going for whatever he thinks is the most practical option a lot of times.
He's always like, you kind of know what he's gonna do, but it's what he's doing is very safe. So it's like you see it coming, but it's like I can't really do much about it right now. So it's all about picking your spots with him. And he's kind of probably more of an annoying player, just the way he plays. And if you start getting annoyed by it, that's when he starts shining. That's like when he gets in your head.
Already known as one of the best in the world, Hungrybox finally pulled out of his slump in 2013 and won NorCal Regionals, beating Mango in the Grand Finals.
That jump cancel too. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, you can't afford to.
Oh,
this might be.
This is looking bad.
He still doesn't have his jump.
This is looking bad. Go Mango! Oh my God. This is looking like a wrap. Looking like a wrap. And Hungrybox takes first place in NorCal Regionals. He's got his hands on his ears. He looks like he's about to cry.
He followed that up with a shocking third-place finish at EVO 2013. which will go down in history as one of Melee's most stacked tournaments ever. There he beat SFAT.
Boom. Off stage.
The end.
Yep. The end.
2-0 for Hungrybox over SFAT.
Leffen.
There was a semblance of Leffen chant there, but it died out pretty quickly. And so did Leffen's chances of making it to top 8 winner's side.
Good stuff by Hungrybox.
And Mewtwo King.
Hungrybox aware after his match with Leffen yesterday. He's wave landing onto the stage. But not that situation. To be continued.
And there goes Hungrybox.
In fact, HBox only lost to Wobbles and Mango, the two players who faced off in the grand finals. HBox continued to display strong form for the next few years, placing second at the Big House 3.
All right, read it.
Hungrybox gets out. Gets hit with a back air. He's not in a good spot right now. I have to tell you, ladies and gents.
Both stage.
A big back air! Rest! Rest! It's over!
Third at CEO 2014.
Of course. And Music King does have a gun, so he might try to rack up a lot of damage with these lasers and then wait for the right time.
Jabri said rest.
Boom!
Good night.
That is it.
Good night.
Second at EVO 2014.
Not trained.
And Mango does not take it yet. He goes for the up and throw up here. This time it hits, and we have our champion, Mango, first place here at Evolution 2014 for Super Smash Brothers.
And finally, first place at Paragon Orlando 2015.
Right there by Hungrybox.
Yeah, like a mistake or the reach. Now that was was that an up smash from Leech King?
I was definitely looking at.
Oh, he's way up there and he takes the
that
easy.
Is it. Beautiful job. Hungrybox beats Music King yet again. He can't believe it. A 3-0 victory over one of the best Smash players, period.
Percent is what determines the winner or the loser. I don't know if you can hear this in my headset, but like, listen to the crowd.
Yo, the crowd is not happy. Hungrybox says, "What are you gonna do?"
Just listen to this. It's just like a dark, kind of like.
Yo, look at dude, Hungrybox.
Hungrybox is a stone cold killer.
Do you see his face? Is that the face of a man who cares
Dude,
what
he
the
is
crowd
saying,
has to
please
think?
boo me. Do you see how I won that game?
There is something of a gap between Juan Debiedma and Hungrybox. Throughout 2015, Hungrybox was arrogant, brash, and cocksure. He knew he was one of the best, and he wasn't afraid to play the heel to a crowd full of haters. The patient playstyle that Hungrybox developed to make the most of Jigglypuff's strong kill option and her slow, floaty movement meant walling opponents out, which meant playing slow games that often had long periods of movement with no real action, which meant people weren't exactly rushing to watch Hungrybox play. But the community's animosity spread further than that. Hungrybox's slow playstyle, combined with his over-the-top heel persona, led to plenty of hate from the Smash community. And as their hatred grew, it began to make Hungrybox question if he should continue playing. But, like all things in his life, his mom found a solution.
I wanted to quit a lot of times, especially when I was like in that weird transition phase where I was trying to figure out who I am. Between the ages of like 18 and 21, I was just like, man, so many people hate me. Why am I doing this if people hate me? I'm not getting any satisfaction from this. And I was really gonna quit, but I think Lewis, my mom, talked me out of it.
Hungrybox didn't just rub the community the wrong way at times. He also tended to turn some pros against him as well. Hungrybox and Mango have clashed several times in-game, but after Mango's EVO 2013 win, their rivalry spilled out into the internet, where the two traded barbs on Reddit. But it's his relationship with Leffen that has remained somewhat heated.
All your shit talk, get fucked, Leffen. I don't care. Who ended up winning, Leffen? Where are you now? Where are you now?
I want to kick that guy's ass.
I would be lying if I, didn't really want to fucking beat his ass.
And I want to make sure that when I do it, he remembers what happened to him at Summit. Last time he talked shit and got blown up.
Absolutely possible for Fox to just, find an up smash and tie everything up, but yeah, that might be it.
The rest.
Game 5, Hungrybox winning with, I gotta say, it's feeling Leffen's off the stage. Hungrybox is a mad dog.
Wow.
It's a mad dog.
Wow.
Ooh.
Hungrybox spent much of 2015 without a significant win after Paragon Orlando. He was winning smaller events, but when there was more than one god in attendance, Hungrybox was taking second, third, even fifth. But he finally rounded the corner on the last stretch on his road to the top when he won DreamHack Winter 2015.
The play pretty much immaculate to not get hit by right now, but man, HBox when Armada plays the platforms, HBox is all over him.
I think that is it. Congratulations to Hungrybox making history here on European soil. He is now the first place singles champion for Super Smash Bros. Melee here at DreamHack Winter 2015.
And after his victory, he broke down. His father, who had told him he'd never amount to anything and left his family behind, was gone. And Hungrybox was finally on his way to the top.
D1, I've wanted this for so long. And you know, my dad just passed away, you know. It was my biological dad, and I know it's personal stuff, but he told me, you'll never be the best, you'll be good, but you'll never be the best. So I hope he sees me now.
Despite a small slip at Genesis 3, 2016 was a banner year for HBox. First at Battle of the Five Gods, Pound 2016, EGLX, and CEO 2016 put Hungrybox in the conversation for the best player in the world. And then came EVO. All through 2016, there was really only one person who could challenge Hungrybox: Armada. Armada was Europe's best and, by most accounts, the greatest Melee player in the world. But Hungrybox was learning how to beat him, thanks in part to his coach, Crunch. Crunch was a longtime friend, and was even one of those people that got him into competitive Melee.
We thought we were hot shit. We thought we could beat anyone. We're like, yeah, we beat all our friends. We're great at this game. We watch tournament videos. We're like, you know what, these guys are good, but we can probably be as good as them. So that's kind of where it all started.
But Crunch was also the analytical mind behind Hungrybox's success. He helped him put together the strategies he needed to bring down players like Armada. He was also the guy who helped HBox translate that patience he learned from his family life to his playstyle.
Well, here in person, right before a match, it's all about mentality and warming up, making sure that all the stuff that we worked on is fresh, that he's ready to go into the match. Outside of that, it's really going into the lab, figuring out new strategies, making sure that everything's really, really clean, and going over his opponents and analyzing the matches to make sure we have a good strategy going into the matches.
If DreamHack Winter was a coming out party for HBox's optimal playstyle, then EVO was where he showed off exactly how optimal it was.
Show us what you got, SJ. Rolling away, okay.
And that backer wall right now, he's just zoning him out. Is that going to be a rest? No, carries him off stage instead.
Oh, and that's going to be
no double jump.
SJ just not sweet spotting that double jump. And Hungrybox moving on. These players could win this whole tournament. They're facing off. This is the last game.
Mango right now, we talked about how he does not
turning around.
Oh, and there's the wall. He backs off the wall and he does not get the tech. HBox sending Mango out of the tournament in 4th place.
Oh, no, I didn't. It's not even really a rhyme. It's one of those fraudulent rhymes.
Oh, this is right.
Dodge rhymes.
Yeah.
All right. You know that Hungrybox can take this nugget any percent.
Oh,
he does it! He does it! One up tilt and Hungrybox capitalizes.
Armada and Hungrybox will now be facing off in the grand finals of EVO 2016.
It's like we're back in 2015 where almost every grand finals is Armada Hungrybox.
Yes.
Here we are. We're going to see them duke it out one more time.
HBox drew first blood, taking the first 2 games back to back. But Armada struck back with 2 games of his own. With everything on the line, Hungrybox clutched it out to reset the bracket with the rest heard round the world.
The pressure's on.
Playing around each other right now. Armada not giving him anything. Not
but he gets hit.
Anything. He gets
that could be it.
And he gets the reset to reset the bracket.
The reset.
Reads the double jump. Waits out the air dodge. And Armada, he's got to play one more set. Hungrybox sitting back down.
This time, the 2 traded games back and forth. But Hungrybox closed it out.
Whose ears is?
Eats a back air. This is big. He recovers. Oh, the tournament winner.
Hungrybox presses forward on the gray stick, and that's the end of EVO 2016.
The emotion of winning the biggest Melee tournament ever, with all eyes on him, overwhelmed him. He fell to the floor and cried. He was finally the best. A few months after EVO 2016, Hungrybox quit his full-time job to focus on Smash.
I have quit my job at Westrock. And I'm gonna play Melee for the next few years. I'm gonna travel around the world, and I'm gonna visit all of my fans at tournaments.
For years, Hungrybox had been balancing Smash and school, and then Smash and his engineering job. But after years of waiting, Smash was finally big enough to support him the way he needed. Once again, his patience was rewarded. Armada and Hungrybox went back and forth for the rest of the year, even agreeing that the winner of Smash Summit 3 would be the best player in the world.
Oh, that's it. Okay, I was trying to read the
wrong.
jump.
So
It's so scary because this kind of reminds me of Jaws. He's just like fishing.
But 2017 was when HBox shined. First at DreamHack Austin,
It's unwinnable, right? It's literally unwinnable.
As much as things
Wow.
change, they stay the same.
God damn.
At second place, Hungrybox first.
CEO 2017,
Really hard to play this high-level Melee this late at night.
Yeah.
And that's a rest, and that is it. Hungrybox is your CEO 2017 champion.
and perhaps most notably Smash Summit 5, where he broke Armada's 4-summit streak.
How is Armada playing like a normal human right now? How is he a top-level player with all this stress? I can't even think.
He lives in the
He got it! And Hungrybox ends the Armada streak. He is your Smash Summit 5 champion.
Hungrybox.
And pretty inarguably the best Super Smash Bros. Melee player in the world.
All that together finally put Hungrybox on top. He moved from second to first in the world rankings, pushing Armada off the top for the first time since 2015. And he's remained strong, attending a tournament nearly every week in 2018, and either winning or getting close every time. He's finally made it out of the shadow of Jigglypuff, of Armada, of the community that loves to hate him. His patience has finally paid off.
Thanks for watching. If you want more great content just like this, be sure to hit the subscribe button.